weekends in a row. I am feeling pretty good about my box office predictions right now, and I'm feeling really good, actually, about missing the Black Panther number by such a wide margin because it made an incredible $242 million, and I am so happy for the team behind that film and for everyone that got to experience something special at the movies last weekend. At number 2, it was Peter Rabbit with $23.4 million, and then at 50 Shades Freed right behind with $19.4 million. Number 4 went to Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle with $10 million, and then finally, the 1517 to Paris came in at number 5 with $8.9 million. Hopefully, I can keep the trend going this weekend. Jumping right into it with my number 5 pick, it's 50 Shades Freed. So far, 50 Shades Freed is right in line with 50 Shades Darker. So if I stick with that comparison, Freed is heading towards a 62% drop. Big drop, and I think it's pretty unavoidable, especially when you have a movie like Black Panther in play right now. But I will say that it's lucky for Freed that Jumanji is in its 10th weekend on its way out, because otherwise it might not even be in the top 5 this weekend. But I do think that $6.5 million is going to be enough to get it that number 5 spot. Moving into my 4 now, here's where I could get into a little bit of trouble because I think I'm going to go with Peter Rabbit at number 4. I do think Peter Rabbit is in a pretty good position this weekend, but the other movie that I am worried about taking number 4 is Annihilation. I still think those two movies are going to wind up with very similar weekend totals, so who knows which could be 4 and which could be 3, but right now I'm sticking with Peter Rabbit at number 4, and I'm also sticking with my Romeo and Juliet comparison. So last weekend, Peter Rabbit did drop a little more than that one did, and I have a feeling it has something to do with Black Panther's extremely strong performance. So I'm going to take a cue from that, looking at Romeo and Juliet's 30% weekend 3% change. I'm going to bring that number up to 35% for Peter Rabbit. That would give it another $11.5 million. And now I'm moving to that number 3 spot, and that is where I have Annihilation. So if you've read anything about Annihilation, I would like to bet you've heard someone say it's a challenging watch, and I think it is, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but it could narrow its viewership a little. So I looked at Ex Machina, but I can't really compare it to that because it had a very different rollout strategy when it got its theatrical release. Instead, I'm shifting my focus to the movie Life, because when Life opened up, it opened up against Beauty and the Beast in its second weekend out. Big number for that one. It also opened up against Power Rangers, so I do think Annihilation is facing a similar amount of competition. So Life made $12.5 million its opening weekend out. I'm going to give Annihilation that same number, which admittedly might be a little high, but I do think weekend 1 will see people drawn to the movie. So I'm running with that. $12.5 million for Annihilation. Now I'm moving on to my number 2, and that's where I have the new release, Game Night. This one could be in pretty good shape this week, and we haven't really seen a comedy like this in a while, so there might be a lot of people looking for something like this, and it actually is a pretty good comedy too. But to start this off, I looked at another Jason Bateman R-rated comedy, and that was Identity Thief, which opened huge with $34.5 million. I don't think Game Night has a chance of coming close to that, basically because Melissa McCarthy is a big draw. This movie doesn't have that, and it also is up against a movie like Black Panther, and that's the kind of competition that Identity Thief during its opening weekend just didn't have. So I'm turning my attention to the tracking reports, which peg at about 17 million. I do think that those positive reviews and some good word of mouth could help this one out, though, so I'm going to bring that number up to $20 million, which happens to be in line with another Melissa McCarthy R-rated comedy, and that's Tammy. But now let's make our way back to that number 1 spot, and oh yeah, it is Black Panther again. There was no doubt that Black Panther was coming in at number 1, but yet again, the question is, how much money is this movie going to make? So there are 5 movies that have opened domestically with more than $200 million for their opening weekends. Of those 5, we have The Last Jedi, which saw a 67.5% drop, moving from weekend 1 to 2. Taking that one out of the equation because of the divisive nature of the movie. Instead, I'm looking right now at Jurassic World and the Avengers. Those two dropped 50%. But then if I look at Force Awakens, that one dropped 40%. So basically I'm sitting here trying to pick between the two. And when I look at the movie's incredible reception last weekend, it's A+ cinema score. All those other movies that I just referenced have an A. Black Panther has an A+. I'm leaning towards giving it the 40% drop that Force Awakens had. And if that's how things play out, Black Panther's making another $120 million, which I am really hoping happens. So let's recap now. I've got Black Panther at number 1 with $120 million. Game Night coming in at number 2 with $20 million. Then Annihilation at number 3 with $12.5 million. Peter Rabbit following that one up with $11.5 million. And 50 Shades Freed coming in at number 5 with $6.5 million. Those are my predictions, but now I need yours, especially for Black Panther's second weekend out. What is it going to make? How much is it going to drop? Tell me what you think in the comments section below. And as always, I have a Patreon shout out today, and this is a double one. It's going for two guys who have been with the campaign for a very, very long time. It is Nathan and James Maddox. Guys, you know how much I appreciate your support, how great I think you both are. So thank you so much for sticking with it. And if you want to join the Patreon team too, hit that link below. It'll give you all that fun stuff, good rewards, some Patreon exclusive posts and everything. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. One thing you didn't know is that Dewey's been sleeping in my lap the entire time and I just woke him and he hates me. Bye, I'll see you next weekend.